Gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about how do you prove and apply theorems about lines and angles. Okay, so here we want to recall that an angle is formed by the intersection of two rays or two arrows or line segments with a common endpoint called a vertex. So let's pay attention to the first one over here. This pointed part right here is our vertex. So what we want to do is we want to name it as such. We want to put an arrow there and draw and write vertex. Okay? Then the inside of this angle we call the interior. It actually looks like, if you're looking at like a mouth, it's inside the mouth. Okay? So when we're naming angles, we have to use the vertex in the name, meaning we have to use that letter. So the first way we can name this angle is angle ABC. So you saw we started at the top point A, went down to the vertex B, and then went over to point C. The next one we have is angle CBA. Okay, again, this time we went in reverse. We started with the bottom point, which in this case was C, then we went to our vertex B, and then went up to the point A. And then lastly, we're going to call it angle B. So any of these names is sufficient when it's just a single angle like this. In just a few moments, we're going to see where we have multiple angles that share a vertex. We're not going to be able to just say B. So just get into the habit of naming your angles like this or like this. Okay? So I promised you we'd see multiple angles that share the same vertex. So over here, we have on the second angle to your right, second set of angles to your right, we have 4 points, but only one vertex. So these two angles are sharing the vertex B. So let's start off with the small one, which is this one right here. Okay, so you can see I've highlighted it, or I'm drawing it. All right, so we have angle. We'll start with A. So it's an angle ABD. Now that's going from right to left. Let's say we go from left to right. So then that would be angle DBA. So that's how we would name that angle. So that's the smaller angle. Now we have a bigger angle, which is this section right here. As you notice, I'm drawing a little squiggly line to designate which angle I'm talking about. Oh. All right, so this one we could name as either angle DBC or angle CBD. Now, we cannot name this system, any angle in this system, angle B. We cannot name it, okay? Cannot, because that doesn't tell us which one. It doesn't tell us if it's a small angle or the big angle, because both of them share a common vertex, B, okay? So at this point, we're going to move on to the next section. And if you need to pause, please feel free to pause at any point in the video so you can get caught up. All right, next, you have two angles that have adjacent angles, or two angles that have a common vertex and a common side, but no common interior points, okay? So that basically means that here we have angle 1. That's going to be adjacent to angle 2. Basically, adjacent means next door. So it's kind of like your next door neighbor, okay? So angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent. So please be completing this on your Google form as I have this. If you want to have it on a separate window, that's fine. And like I said, pause it and go between the two points. All right? Between the Google form, the Google slide and this video. Then the next set we have is angle 2 and angle 3 are adjacent. All right, so those are our adjacent angles. We have angle 1 and 2, because you can see they're right by each other. And then angles 2 and 3 are also right by each other. Angles 1 and 3 are not adjacent because there's an angle in the middle. So it basically has to be your next door neighbor, not a neighbor 2 doors down or 3 doors down. It has to be the one right next to your house. All right. I wish we could do this in person because, as I've taught this before, I love this part because Mr. Harper likes to wear on some days I like to dress up and I like to wear bow ties. So you'll see why I'm calling that in a minute. So vertical angles or opposite angles are formed by intersecting lines. Vertical angles are congruent. Okay? So our first set, so basically what you want to do is you want to, on this side of the form, of the slide, you want to say bow tie. So you want to write in the word bow tie by the little bow tie. I made sure to put one there. Okay? So this is a bow tie. Hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person and you can see that. So again, under that, you need to write congruent, or you need to type in congruent, and then you'll say set equal, meaning that they are the same measurement. Okay? Set equal. So our first set of vertical angles over here to the left, to the right, sorry, are angles 1 and 3, because look at them. They kind of look at each other. Whenever you have two angles that look at each other, those are bow ties. So angle 1 is equal to angle 3. Our next set is angle 2 and angle 4. So angle 2 is equal to angle 4. All right, so that takes care of vertical angles. The next thing we're going to talk about is a linear pair. A linear pair is two angles that are adjacent and add up to be 180. So you can't do this on the Google form, but just pay attention to these words. There are two angles that are adjacent and add up to be 180. So again, you don't have to underline like I am, but there is a box on your Google slide where you have to write share a side. And remember I said that's like having neighbors. So share a slide. So let me kind of erase this a little bit. Ms. Harper is a little bit of a neat freak. If you were in my class, you can kind of see, but share a side. Down here you have a box that says angle plus angle equals 180. So again, angle plus angle. So that means that when you add the two angles up together, they should give you 180. If they give you anything less than or more than 180, which in this case they really can't give you more than 180, but I'll get into that a little later on. But you should not get anything less than 180. If you get 160, 154, 179, it's not a linear pair. Okay. So here you're going to form. So basically, 180 degrees can also be written, and this is what I was going to talk about a little later. It is a straight line. So if you have a straight line, its measurement is 180 degrees. And if you notice this, you notice how this bottom section right here, when your two angles, if the bottoms of the angles form a straight line, then it's a linear pair. So here we would say angle WXZ plus angle YXZ equals 180. Okay? Now we don't know the exact measurements, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. Some of the example problems you'll have to work, you'll see where you add the two angles together and you'll get 180. Again, Mr. Harper got a little happy there, so let me try to erase this Y a little bit so it looks a little bit more easily distinguishable. Or you can tell it's a Y. Okay, so that looks a little better. And then the last part we're going to talk about is supplementary angles. So supplementary angles it's when you have two angles, again, you don't have to highlight this, but again, two angles that when you add them together, they give you 180. Now, basically, based off what we just talked about, a linear pair are also supplementary, okay? So you'll kind of see that go interchangeable. So the first box you can fill out on your Google slide, you would say not a bow tie, meaning that the two angles that are not the same measurement, so they're not a bow tie. Again, you don't have to underline the word not, but I'm just putting not there so you understand. Again, just like a linear pair, angle plus angle is going to equal 180. All right. So our example down here, we have angle 1 over here and angle 2. Those are supplementary angles, okay? So you would say angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180. Again, we don't know the exact measurement, but we do know that it's going to be, these two are going to form a supplementary angle, or they're supplementary angles, and they're going to form a linear pair, because look at the bottom. Look at the bottom of two angles. Don't they form a straight line? Okay? So, I have an example up here, right here, where it has 115 and x. Now remember, these two lines, these two angles share a base that form a straight line. So that means that they're a linear pair. And if they're a linear pair, that means they're 180 degrees. So we know that one angle is 115 degrees. The other angle is represented by x. So to figure out what that is, all we have to do is say 180 minus 115, because we already know that angle is 115, and that gives us 65. So that means in this case, x is going to be 65. So here, x equals 65. And two examples over here to the right is basically these two angles were a linear pair. These two angles over here are not linear pairs, but they are supplementary angles, because we're going to say this one's 130 degrees, and then this is 50 degrees. So this is supplementary. So these are not linear pairs, but they are supplementary, because if we added two angles together, they would give us 180. Okay, so that'll be it for today. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.